the mid. So we'll see how these teams want to prioritize it. Of course, things like the Nico, the Milio, and the Vi, all still extreme bans here that you have to come in. But it's interesting enough, it's being banned by RNG, which means you're going to get NIP saying, look, we're happy to take away something that you would prefer, which is way on that Sejuani. Does mean though first pick goes over to RNG, and with the Annie still very prevalent, something that Tangyuan has been exceptional on all split.
Yeah, 10 games played, most played champion in the mid lane for Tangyuan, sitting on that 70% win rate. So this is definitely a comfort pick for the side of RNG. But Tristana, once again, we've been highlighting this pick for the past week, where it has become such a potent flex between mid and AD carry, where it can go either way. But personally, I think it does better towards the bottom side, just because of how much pressure it has on a champion like the Aphelios, which is a clear comfort for LP when it comes to the current meta. So we'll have to wait and see what LP's default is to that one, because we do know both of these AD carries do share their love for this Aphelios champion, which I do want to highlight that we've seen a bit of a move away from the traditional hyper carries. I mean, you look at LCK, Samira's getting a bit of playtime. We see Kai'Sa coming back into the current meta. ADC is getting a lot more interesting, especially bottom lane with Alistar and Rel as well. So hopefully we won't get, you know, an Aphelios versus Jinx for tonight, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait, of course. The Cassante still absolutely busted. Still a fantastic first prototype. Honestly, you can blind it into pretty much anything at this stage in the game. But now RNG find themselves in a very interesting kind of situation. Do you pick the Aphelios or, kind of your bot lane here? Or do you want to try and pick something for the top lane? I was just about to say the Renekton comes in. We talked about this last time, Kitty. The Renekton is seen as a counter, quote unquote, air quotes in my hands, a counter to the Cassante. That's not what we've been seeing. The Cassante just seems like he just outscales the Renekton and can deal with him just fine in the lane, unless you're Bin, of course, because Bin on Cassante is nuts. Or sorry, Bin on Renekton is nuts. Or Cassante.
Bin on anything is nuts, let's be honest. But I was gonna say,
top laner.
I was a little bit surprised that Invincible, I mean, taking the Cassante up against Renekton. On paper, once again, I can't stress this enough. Renekton should be finding a lot of early leads up against Cassante, as long as you have your jungler kind of hovering you, which is something that Wei does really well, especially when it comes to dodging vision for topside ganks. So Invincible, he has to play his cards very carefully on this champion, because Breathe is more than happy to take over the game on this Renekton, where we had the Ivan getting locked in for Shadow for a second time this summer split. I believe the first time they locked it in was up against JDG, and that unfortunately resulted in the fastest game time to ever happen in the summer split for 2023. So with this time, Tristana and Ivan, a very clear team identity where they want to be playing for that double AD carry composition, which to be fair could also be a Ziggs AD carry for Photic, which we haven't seen from him just quite yet, but a lot of teams have been enjoying this because it has a lot of tower taking ability when it comes to that early game and just play through macro.
Play through macro, play through the thing. Of course, the Ivern, as you mentioned, kind of very good at keeping things like a Tristana, a Jinx, to kind of, get them flowing nicely into those mid to late game team fights. And honestly, you could go for another Enchanter in that bot side as well if you really felt like it. But for the moment, NIP kind of feeling a lack of engage for the moment, like the idea of kind of going for picks perhaps with the Ashe. And again, the Ashe has kind of just been coming back into the forefront, especially when the solo laners are so high priority that you end up having those extra bans to throw into bot side.
Yeah, and this Ashe, it has a very diverse build right now where you can go either the Shiv, Triforce, or the Kraken as that first item. So it's going to be really interesting to see what RNG's response is to this Ashe pick, because we saw from Weibo Gaming, I believe it was in Light and Crisp, picking something like the Brahmin Ashe where they had so much kill threat in that bottom lane. The glacial synergy, might I say, but with this Rel getting locked in for the side of Lumal, I wouldn't be surprised if the final pick is going to be something like the Alistar, where it will go even, at least even kind of cancel out the threat of this Rel in that early game. But we'll have to wait and see, because I'm gonna be real, I don't like Jinx in the current meta right now. I feel like Jinx, you really depend on 3 item spikes, and you just don't really offer that much when it comes to the early game. So you're just praying that you reach that late game stage where it has to be set up through Lumal and of course Breathe on this Renekton.
Yeah, I just feel like, again, it's kind of one of those things where the Jinx, if allowed to kind of, scale into that late game, get to those 3 items, 4 items, as you say, like a uber late game, they just have an insane range and an exceptional way of kind of making them, kind of take over a fight with those resets and to get excited. But On the other side of this, you kind of have to say you got to get to that late game, and that's unfortunately not a thing that a lot of teams end up kind of getting to. The Jinx just feel a little bit more tempered, shall we say, before that ends up kind of coming to fruition. But on the other side of this one here, the Braum double Freljord in the bot lane to try and deal with this Rel Jinx combination. Honestly, I quite like the Braum coming in here just to kind of nullify a little bit of the Annie and the Jinx, especially when you're looking to try and all in that early game with that Wukong and Annie combination.
Yeah, and I feel like it will be all about the mid lane for today because we have the Tristana up against Talyun's Annie, where Angel, we've seen him kind of divert to this type of playstyle, but we're not too sure, well, I'm not too sure about if he's able to kind of pull through with this because I feel like NIP has always been that team where they are also really good at playing 5v5 team fights and just forcing these really good picks through Angel, but this time around, something like Tristana, not a lot of setup, so he has to play through Shadow and of course draw on this Braum when it comes to those side lanes. And I feel like Tristana compositions are a lot harder to execute because the Tristana literally has to play perfect and you have to play through side lanes. You can't default to the 5v5, especially with the composition that RNG has decided with the Wukong, the Annie, and the Rel. A lot of wombo combos. So once again, Angel, Maya to look out for. But this time around, Photic, where NIP definitely really depend on this guy playing a hyper carry, playing something that you like the utility on the Ashe. Something I'm very excited for, but of course, game one, it's anyone's game.
It's anyone's games, and it's anybody's time to try and catch themselves a little bit of a momentum, a little bit of swing back towards them. Of course, for NIP on a 3-series loss streak. RNG are coming off of a little bit of more tit for tat. You know, they kind of won against TT, lost against AL, won against Ultra Prime. It's a little bit more kind of scrappy for them, and those weren't easy series either. They lost 2-1 against AL, they won 2-1 against TT. This is now an opportunity for them to try and maybe kind of, you know, bring in that game difference. And we always mention that, you know, the closer to the end of playoffs or closer to playoffs we get, because game difference can be also important, especially when deciding what, you know, kind of where in the rankings you end up placing in playoffs.
Yeah, especially, I mean, just the difference between the weeks when you do get to that playoff stage is so insane because you do get a bye pretty much for the first couple of games. But once again, these two teams still middle of the table fighting for securing a playoffs position is going to be key. As we take a look at the start for all of these junglers, we have Wei starting the red buff. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a lot of action happening towards this top side because we have the Braum that nullifies the Jinx Rel lane perfectly. So RNG, they want to keep their eyes and play for Breathe. And on this Renekton, which I need to once again highlight that this Renekton does find slight advantages when it comes to the early game, at least before 6 when Invincible has that all out. So they need to take advantage of this.
See what they can do. So far, going to be, again, nothing really exceptional going to be happening, you would imagine, for the first few levels. Or how does that Winter's Bite hit? I have no idea, but we are seeing the Tristana kind of picked into the Annie to make sure that you can do things like this. Just kind of force her in a lot. That whole point of the Annie in the, you know, kind of previous patches, such was that she had exceptional range, exceptional engage, and kind of exceptional trading patterns. Now, with the Tristana kind of coming back in and being a lot more of a force, you kind of have to be a bit more aware that you can't really take those trades at the end anymore. You got to be a bit more aggressive to try and make them work. And Wei going to walk right over a ward, so Angel should be in total safety here, you would imagine, to try and go for it. But now they might go for something in this bot side, just knowing that there's no jungler to try and go for it. This is a huge trade. Lumel has to flash. Massive win there for NIP in the bot side.
I mean, that's just great trading coming out of the NIP bottom lane. Wei still trying to look for an angle onto Angel in this mid lane, but Shadow's around.
Yep, Shadow is here, and just very, very annoying. The Candyman shall pop his shield up, not really be in any danger. We will see Wei try to be aggressive on top of him. Of course, the Ivern not really in a position to try and fight this guy at all, but a knockback. Reed takes a tower shot. And already you can see, yeah, Invincible was like, you've lost a significantly more health than you probably anticipated.
Breathe needs to be careful right here.
Oh, good flash from Breathe. Invincible almost buffered it perfectly, but that's now flashes down. And NIP already out the blocks, looking a lot more comfortable. Oh,
wait, there's a flash!
Oh, my lord, that stun had to come in so clutch there. Invincible pushing the Renekton all the way back. You talked about it. I've said it. I just don't see this as a counter.
I mean, look, there is a way of slow pushing. If Wei wants to finish his Scuttle Crab and kind of annoy Invincible in this top side, I wouldn't be too mad about that, but I keep saying that Renekton should be winning, but these LPL games are definitely proving me wrong, and Shadow does try to look for something in towards that mid lane, which I do want to hone in on the Tristana priority when it comes to the LPL nowadays. I feel like Tristana gets priority over any other champion. Maybe not the Nico, which is pick or ban in the first 3. So NIP kind of adjusting to the meta, and I really like this change or adaptation when it comes to their ability to draft, because I've always thought that NIP, you know, you play through Invincible on something like the Jax that has a lot of split pushing power, while NIP, they play as that 4-man unit in Angel and Photic as the carries. But this time around, Shadow is the sole AP of this team, and usually Jungle Ivan, they still go the support item as the mythic, so not even that much damage to be making up for. So RNG, if they're gonna put Shadow behind, NIP might be in a bit of a pickle.
Oh, we see a stun coming in here. Tangyuan does have his own stacked up and ready to be utilized to the best possible. Then Shadow just trying to be as more of an absolute nuisance as a Ivern can be. But I think the thing is as well, like you mentioned, where the kind of, you know, lack of AP damage. There's not really a native, you know, kind of super tank. You don't have a Scion or a Cassante or, you know, even an Ornn on your team, and you're kind of going like, all right, I'll just stack a load of armor and it'll be fine. It's kind of a lot of bruisers coming into this one here. So yes, you are lacking in the AP, and the longer this game goes, the more you will be hurt for that. But I just feel like it's a ways away before that's really going to become anyway super relevant for either of these teams to kind of gain the benefit or lose out from it.
Most definitely, as I still am waiting for that huge 5v5 potential that we will get out of RNG once level 6s do come online. Wei is still level 4 though, so it's pretty far away from that. But we already saw, as our camera is kind of honing in on this bottom 2v2, that if Luma kind of engages wrong once, he has to burn the flash. And he already did, but he has the Hex Flash for this in particular. Tang is very far away. I don't think they can contest for this.
Don't know. They're gonna back away though. They really don't want NIP to get this first dragon. Here we go. The mount up comes in. They're gonna pop down the traps afterwards to try and stop Photic and Show. It's a little bit of a separated 4v4. It ends up kind of turning into a 2v2v2v2. Now everyone's kind of backing themselves away. Heal comes out, and they've got some decent damage. That's going to be the dragon going over there to RNG. Decent damage onto Lumao, but he's going to have the crash down to keep himself safe there. And that's honestly just great utilization from RNG to say, look, we know we have the hard engage. They have to respect it. They cannot take this fight.
Yeah, I mean, it was just RNG kind of stealing this dragon in broad daylight's way. Is going to work towards that top side and try to start something with this Rift Herald now, but I thought RNG was relatively split. Tongan didn't have that stun to start everything off. He was sitting on relatively low mana as well, so I personally thought NIP could have had a bit of a fight to it with the utilization of this Braum passive. But now, once again, level 6s are going to be key, especially for the bottom lane. Photic has that level 6, and we've seen the potency of this Ashe and Braum working together as the duo. You can't just cleanse the initial Asher. You kind of have to hold on to that cleanse until every CC gets put out by the NIP bottom lane to really secure that safety for the Jinx.
Interesting enough, we saw the stats pop up on the bottom of the screen. It was Invincible has the highest amount of solo deaths in the top laners in the league. As we can see that Shadow not quite able to get his passive out to liberate that camp. Will end up forfeiting off as flash for flash. Invincible's coming down here as well. They're trying to just stop Wei from running away. They're dragging him back with the all-out, and he will be stunned up, taken down. Invincible with a decent roam, secure his first blood for NIP.
Is there a thing where it's opposite cost to casting? Because you just said that Invincible has the highest solo deaths when it comes to the isolated 1v1, but he's proving you wrong by picking up that first blood, and we all know what Cassante can do with this slight lead up against the Renekton matchup. The Renekton pretty much gets neutralized through this early game, and he won't be able to find any kill angle onto this Cassante in side lane, so he really has to look for those flanks when it comes to the 5v5s, which we've been highlighting for the past 8 minutes, but we'll have to wait and see, especially the way being set a little bit behind, and once again seeing that disconnect between the mid and jungle of RNG.
This is the thing that Ivern, you're probably thinking, oh, he's behind by like 2 camps. It's, you know, Wei's not doing that badly in terms of the farm. But I like that you bring it up because Shadow's items are a lot cheaper than Wei's items, and this is kind of how relative we need to look at it, because when the Ivern gets his first item or 2, it's a lot cheaper, a lot easier for him to get that than it is for Wei to get up to that Black Cleaver and Divine Sunderer. So really, kind of forcing Wei into the situation where he has to be a bit more proactive, and honestly, getting caught like this is just not going to be it's counterintuitive. Yes, you get the red buff, but what did, you don't gain anything else from it. You lose.
A bit of a red buff transaction going towards Invincible, but I saw that Wei was forced to use his clone to really dodge out on the CC from Shadow, so he didn't have any ways of escaping that skirmish. And just a bit of an overextension from the jungle of RNG. But once again, level 6s are online, as the next fight will be around this Rift Herald. We don't have any supports moving towards theirs though, so I wouldn't be surprised if RNG just takes this away while NIPs prioritize those tower plates for now.
Yeah, that's kind of generally what we see as well, is that, one team kind of just says, look, we're not going to contest you at all. We're just going to push in another lane, usually the bot side, to confirm either the 2 plates or so that you would generally get. Tibbers gets dropped on top of Angel, who should be able to jump over the wall. Never mind, doesn't even bother jumping over the wall. We see the trade in the bot side. Actually, LP, unfortunately, not cleansing at the right time, just a split second too early. And that meant that he took a very unfavorable trade. Photic and Zhou, with the help of Shadow, just pushing in that lane, getting themselves nice and safe and a little bit more secure to gold. We kind of come back into the kind of game right now. No one finished off the first item just yet, but plenty of boots to be speaking of. And that's the thing as well, when you're going into an Annie, you have to go for the merc treads first. It's just, you are just, trolling, if I'm being totally honest, without it. So you have to be able to rush that one here, which is unfortunate for someone like the Tristana, because she does love to get that early pressure down and try and get that presence in the lane.
If Angel's dying in these teamfights with the Merc Treads and the ability where you're able to buffer a CC, I'm going to be disappointed. But jokes aside, we have no cleanse available for LP, and the Dragon is going to be spawning in 40 seconds, which NIP definitely want to take this, because we once talked about how no cleanse for this Jinx is going to be very scary. It doesn't matter that you have the flash. NIP has such great follow-up CC from the Braum and the Ashe. It's going to be very scary, so have to wait and see how RNG kind of execute on the front to back. As Luma, in these teamfights, I'm assuming he wants to be looking forward. The ultimate from Ashe.
Yeah, gonna get some nice trades here. LP taking serious damage, and you can see without that cleanse, just not in any way, shape, or form able to trade back. And really nicely done here by Photic, just to try and continually put pressure onto this Jinx. It's leading to about a 15 CS lead once this wave gets cleared up, and that's going to be significant. Again, it kind of comes down to finishing off your first item, getting yourself into a much stronger position before that next dragon fight, which could be happening very soon.
And once again, I mean, there's a reason why Jinx has been lowered in terms of priority when it comes to the ADC champion pool. She just doesn't give a punch when it comes to that early game. And Photic, honestly, piloting this Ashe perfectly when it comes to the laning phase. RNG, they don't really have the circumstances to contest this. Once again, RNG's bottom lane is completely zoned out.
They are, but they're not looking for the dragon right now. NIP are looking for the fight. TP very early here from Breathe. It will secure the dragon, but Invincible didn't have a TP to answer, so the TP advantage came out for RNG. Yes, you'll get yourself a second dragon. Good job to you. What can Invincible get on the other side? That's the question, because NIP, they're forcing these engagements. They're the ones forcing these setups, and they're the ones kind of coming out on the back end of it, not really looking that great.
Yeah, double TP committed from RNG, as Tanyan did have to kind of catch this top wave since Breathe committed towards that dragon fight. But honestly, great early game from the side of RNG, kind of denying any early drags away from NIP. But I'm pretty surprised, because we see Photic and Dro constantly securing bottom lane priority. Even the Tristan in the mid lane, who should be naturally getting pushed up against the Annie, but every single time just forced off with the amount of kill threat that RNG has, with how they're able to kind of play with the vision in this bottom side. As we do have a game pause, and we're not too sure what's going to be happening about that.
Yeah, look, I always say if a game pause can happen, it's much better for it to happen when nothing is happening. Basically, you're all farming. Nobody's in a bad situation, and you can look at I can see it in the mini map just very quickly. No junglers near anybody, so not a terrible time to be having a pause for the moment, but obviously not ideal either. We don't want to be seeing too many pauses coming in. Hopefully we'll be rectified very, very soon. But for the moment, the gold is pretty much dead even. It's just those 2 dragons really that are being the advantage for the side of RNG for the moment. And again, it's been kind of NIP looking to try and take these dragons, but you have an Ivern jungle. He's just not going to take these objectives in any way, shape, or form quickly. So you have to try and be a little bit more, I don't know, it feels like they're being decisive, but in the wrong ways. They're kind of bringing the dragon down to 3000 HP, then jumping on someone who just disengages, and then they lose the dragon.
I mean, it's pretty hard to be in NIP shoes because you have to consider what their setup is when it comes to turning these 5v5 fights, because it's all up to Photic, as even Dro on the Brom, his ultimate's quite short-ranged, so it most likely has to act as follow-up, while Photic on the Ashe, I mean, it can miss sometimes. I'm not too sure about his accuracy on the arrow. It's been, what, 2 out of 2 times so far? 3 out of 3? So
like
relatively reliable, I think,
think.
onto LP in the bottom lane, but still, I'm pretty shocked that NIP hasn't been able to secure any early objectives around that bottom side, given the presence that this Ashe and Brom has been able to secure when it comes to the isolated 2v2, but we'll have to wait and see, because once again, Angel is kind of set up for success with this draft. The Ivan, the Ashe, the Brom, so much setup and peel when it comes to those team fights. But when it does come to those major skirmishes, once again, the turning ability is going to be a little bit, I wouldn't say sus, a little bit unreliable, because you don't have that much AoE CC compared to the side of RNG.
Good to see smiles coming out here from the members of NIP. Just trying to keep the positivity going. Again, they know that they're losing a couple of objectives, but not exactly losing in the game just yet. And it's going to be key about where these arrows hit. If you can get it on top of either the Annie or the Wukong to try and burst them out as they try and go for an engage, that's the big key difference here that could be pivotal between these two sides. For RNG, if they can burst people out, the Ashe is unable to kind of go for something you know, kind of able to plant her feet and be a nuisance on the sidelines. We have seen it just kind of be flat out useless. And we do have a slight update for you as we are waiting for, you know, kind of a full report. But it was an in-game issue reported. They are investigating, and I'm assuming they didn't see anything wrong. So back into the game we go as we wait to see now with 13 minutes gone if anyone can really kind of make a dent, because it does feel like we're going tit for tat.
You talk about game pauses, but something that lives in my head rent-free is the game where Dorm paused the game because he thought he bought static Shiv, but it just wasn't activating.
My Shiv didn't, Parok. That's bugged. And it's like, you don't have Shiv.
But he had the components. He didn't even buy it. So that's just another day in LCK. But we're back in game now, and RNG is sitting on 2 dragons. Very comfortable early game as NIP kind of struggling to find those early tower plates into Angel's pockets. Only 1 taken by the Tristana so far, so not the best for Angel.
Seeing trades kind of happening across the board. Of course, that Thornmail rush against the Renekton is the standard nowadays for pretty much any top laner, to be honest with you, going into that Renekton matchup. Just gives you so much better trading value going up against the Gore Drinker build. And first item's being completed kind of across the board here. We did see LP going for a little bit of an earlier reset. Does mean he's a bit of a half level disadvantage for the moment. And you can see Photic now recognizing, yes, I need to go back, get myself my first item. And maybe, just maybe, we might see a fight in a minute 30.
Hopefully we do, because RNG, they are trying to get any opportunity to burn those flashes out of NIP. But talking about the top lane matchup, we've seen K'Sante versus Renekton probably 10 billion times in the LPL for this new meta. But still, I wanted to highlight that the guy that I started noticing who built that healka on the K'Sante first was Mr. Shanzi on OMG himself, as he is a pioneer of what K'Sante is in terms of the meta, and he's very happy to kind of go into the builds and see what works out best. And a lot of these K'Santes have been kind of following Shanzi's footsteps, with the Thornmail getting not locked in, but getting bought for this matchup. But once again, I mean, items are coming online, mythics are getting picked up by the entire side of RNG, but we don't have a static Shiv for this game 1, Oshin. What?
No statics, no statics yet. We'll wait to see. I mean, I'll be totally honest, it does feel like, especially here in the LPL, teams are kind of going, or at least players are kind of going, you know what? Unless you're LeBlanc, it's not that good. It's really not that good. Just not really something that's going to be giving you as much power. Go on, what? Give me your theory.
A lot of teams have been brainwashed into thinking how OP, oh, the Ashe arrow, is it going to hit?
It's not going to hit anything. Angel going for a trade back with Tangyuan. They both come out pretty worse for wear on that one there. So we do see an ultimate coming in. Oh, LP perfectly judging where the Tristana was going to be. And Angel gets cleaned up there for a nice, simple kill. Very, very well done there by RNG to make sure they still come out on top of that trade.
Angel just exploded on the sideline. That buys so much time for RNG to work off. and picking up the side lane priority. And Shadow, you're dead, buddy.
Oh, is he though? He's actually kind of flashing perfectly over that wall, getting himself nice and further away than he needs
Oh
to be.
my
He's
God!
actually, oh, Daisy taking a 1v1. Who wins there, Daisy or Tibbers? Daisy was coming out on top. Daisy's got hands.
Daisy was putting up a punch to Tanya where it burns the Annie flash out of that exchange. I mean, I'm sorry for calling that Shadow was dead. I didn't expect Daisy to have so much damage on the Moonstone, and that is why Ivern has been getting so much attention in the current patch. I mean, he just has so much inbuilt damage through Daisy, although going a support item, so kind of Tanya not respecting that type of damage. But once again, the dragon is going to be spawning in 20 seconds. No flashes available from the mid jungle of RNG, so it's going to be relatively hard trying to contest for this, especially with having no vision whatsoever. So it has to be through Lumal, who does have the flash available on this rel.
It's kind of like your main real engage. Like Wei and Tangyuan not having that available to them is very key. As we look at the replay here, this is just straight up a 1v1. I will say Tangyuan is level 11, so he does have that extra bit of damage on the Tibbers, but that Ash arrow looked like it was going to hit Tristana. It looked like it was aimed at the Tristana rather than the Annie.
Well, unfortunately, friendly fire isn't a thing in the League of Legends universe, but this rocket from across the world just hit Angel. Angel had the flash available as well, but he just wasn't aware because there was no vision whatsoever in that river for the side of NIP to work off. And finally, NIP stopping the dragon stacking away from RNG and managing to pick up this third one.
Nicely done. Does mean they forfeit top side pressure. Looks like they're just going to be giving over that Rift Herald. I will say that the wave crashing in top side, not ideal. You would have liked it for Invincible to be there a little bit earlier. Bot lane is going to be pushed in now. And they've got Zhou coming in off the side of this one here, so Angel trying his very best to burn down this tower, but it's actually very difficult for him to try and just kind of fully commit to it. And RNG are kind of winning on the macro here, getting themselves a tower in top, getting themselves the Rift Herald mid lane tower, and there's not really been, apart from that one dragon, there's not really been a response here for NIP. The gold very, very heavily swinging back in RNG's favor.
Yeah, I'm pretty confused because you look at RNG's entire composition, they're not supposed to be the ones being able to take towers away from NIP. I mean, Angel is still struggling to get rid of that tier 1. It's going to be really hard trying to match this Renekton, who is level 13, by the way. So Shadow needs to be constantly hovering towards this Tristana if she wants to be pushed up, but Wei has been able to reset. And Lumal, once again, hovering towards his bottom side.
And Luma looking for a little bit of a movement here. We are going to see a flash in with the Magnet Storm. Do they have the damage? That is a question. Oh, that knockback does stop the arrow from going in. Another not quite going to land. Now they're going to see if Daisy can have something to say about this. Does get the knock up, forces the flash out of breathe. Invincible with a million, billion, zillion dashes, just getting himself away as far as he possibly can. Hasn't gotten out of it just yet. Will get one more though with a bit of a shield. And that should keep him safe on that top side. However, that tower should be going down as well. So again, RNG got it coming out on top again.
They commit 4 people towards this bottom side by NIP, but look at the top side. RNG secure the tier 2 tower, and I believe even LP was kind of shredding down that tier 2 tower in the mid lane, and they're just losing all control when it comes to setup for this upcoming ban, which is going to be in 30 seconds. I mean, once again, we take a look at the replay. NIP just really struggling to lock down anyone in the side lane, but it was a bit of a strange play because we had 2 people only towards this bottom side where it was like a half-committed play, and we had 5 people committing to this bottom lane play, but it was really good cancel from Tangyuan, and K'Sante do K'Sante things. He didn't die here.
No, he should have. Even though he actually...
Any other champion.
Any other champion. He actually messed up his ultimate. The funny thing is there is that Invincible wanted to get way on the long part of the wall so he could get him all the way away and then kind of just, you know, turn into an isolated 1v1 and then walk away. He actually messed it up and still survived. So there you go. Good champion design. Sorry, I find it very, very boring to cast a K'Sante. Where are these arrows going, folks?
You know, Ocean,
like,
I heard a hot take. I believe it was
What's
a
your
Zale.
hot take?
So the hot take on Twitter was, although K'Sante is extremely overtuned in terms of his kits, but considering the tank champions that we do have available in the pool, K'Sante is a relatively entertaining champion compared to the rest of the champions like Maokai, Sion, Malphite, because K'Sante has dashes and he has so much outplay potential when it comes to his dashes.
See, this is the problem, though. If everything is front-loaded and you know, like, I don't get excited seeing that they can get on top of Invincible because I'm like, well, he's going to get out. Casante's going to leave, you know? That's not exciting. That's not, I'm assuming that, I'm assuming if you get caught as a Casante and you don't survive, you're bad. It's just, if you're
bad. Dying on Casante, you shouldn't play the champion anymore.
Exactly, he's that overtuned. If you die on Casante in any kind of situation in a 1v2, you're just bad at the champion. I'm sorry. You know, it's skill diff. No, I mean, I think it's just for me is that it's so overtuned that no one else can really kind of deal with it, or no one can kind of like react to it, if that makes sense. So makes it a little less fun for me, you know.
Yeah, but talking about skill diff, we kind of highlighted how important Photic's ultimates when it comes to these team fights was going to be, but I believe we haven't seen one hit in the past 5 minutes or so. So NIP really struggling to find any picks onto RNG while they're just out macroing NIP in general. Although NIP are the ones locking in this Tristana and putting so much priority in terms of the side lane, it's pretty surprising when, I mean, NIP just struggling to find any picks.
Just not really getting anything from this. 3,000 gold lead, about 3.5 as we come into the next dragon that will put RNG on soul point. Great soul for them to get. And look at the vision. They just have nothing right now. And we talked about how, you know, RNG are waiting for the Jinx to get up to maybe 3 items, 3.5 to kind of be a bit more relevant and such. But, like, I mean, it's not as if NIP are forcing them to do anything else. They're just kind of now looking for this fight. They will have a TP on Breed, who will be coming in straight away. Arrow goes off into Narnia. And that's going to be the soul point confirmed. Breed now in the middle of absolutely everybody. The Magnet Storm is good, but they're able to take down Breed before anything else happens. They're going to be able to turn back with Wei, and the AoE is just insane. LP is just too damn big. A flash from Angel, but he's already been revealed. A Gale Force into his face. This is RNG's game. NIP just cannot do anything about it.
I mean, who needs 3 items on the Jinx when you have a god tier composition when it comes to those 5v5 forces? And then while setting everyone up, and a beautiful follow-up from Wei's Cyclone as well. They're going to secure themselves this tier 2 tower in the mid lane, and of course the 23-minute Baron going to RNG's hands.
I mean, look at this replay. Again, you're forcing this because you know you have to, but you're too late. Like, you don't have the priority.
No priority, no vision. Arrow goes wide from Photic as well, and Cleanse forced out of Breathe. Although this Renekton does die instantly, but they no longer have the kind of DPS to kill anyone else. LP pretty much free hitting this entire team fight as Angel, the remaining member, flash for flash as well, while Tanya is the one picking up the triple kill. We didn't even get to highlight this Annie's DPS when it came to that huge 5v5 because Wei just had a beautiful cyclone onto 3 people of NIP, and once again, NIP, I mean, you're just slowly bleeding because of how inactive you guys were in the early game.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you brought that up for Wei and Tangyuan, is that the Cyclone Tibbers combination is a reason why this duo is so feared in most, you know, kind of pro teams, is that you just get so much AoE damage. And I mean, like, what's a Braum gonna do? Like, yeah, you put up a shield, but that's not gonna stop a Tibbers. That's not gonna stop a Cyclone. Like, that's a very niche amount of damage you're gonna be able to try and, you know, kind of mitigate. And we saw just kind of how useless it was. We come back into live, Baron taken. Only 1 outer tower left on that bot side, which is probably going down very, very soon as Wei just kind of keeps this minion wave buffed up and alive to keep putting in the pressure. And this is starting to become an almost impossible feat because we're almost at that 3-item point here for LP. He's the Jinx that will shred through absolutely everybody.
Arrow does hit this time.
It's on to Breed, though. Not exactly the ideal target. He's going to have his stopwatch as well. They do have a little bit of extra time to work with him, and they're just kind of keep pushing in the damage. What are you supposed to do? You have nothing that can deal with the true carries of the Annie and the Jinx. It's an ace for 1. It's gonna be the game, and it's gonna be RNG taking the advantage.
Where is the damage from NIP? Breed lived for so long, and this game, 25 minutes, LP just popped up on this Jinx.
He really did. Got up to 2.5 items, not quite the 3rd, but it was just more than enough. It ends up being a just under 26-minute win here for RNG as they take advantage over NIP in this best of 3.
We said from the very beginning, NIP, they needed to play through the side lane. They needed Angel to carry on this Tristana and get those tower plates into his pockets as soon as possible. But unfortunately, RNG just flipped the script and they did it much better. And when it did come to those important 5v5s, they had the better team comp as well. And it was just a lot easier to execute with the Cyclone in hand, with the Tibbers in hand as well. So NIP kind of shooting themselves in the foot with this game 1.
Yeah, I mean, you pick the Ivern, you're kind of looking to buff up your 80 carries, go a bit crazy and stuff like that, but we just didn't really see them kind of coordinating. It was like an Ash Arrow in a 1v1, which you're never going to kill the Jinx in. You're always just going to be able to harass and move back, never going to get the kill. Top lane, Cassante almost got a couple of things going, but then we just saw Wei kind of shift his focus towards that top side, and there was nothing that Invincible can do. And this Tristana effectively did not a lot. It was nice. It did a bit of damage, but you pick the Tristana to be a turret-taking kind of machine. You pick her to kind of get that early advantage and then move forward with that advantage with the rest of your team. It just didn't really come together. I'm going to be honest as well. The Braum was less than useless. It was just not really the pick they needed. So, I mean, a lot to change for NIP coming into the second game. But for RNG, look, they took it in their stride. They knew exactly how they needed to play. And it's great to see them kind of confidently going for a